Sandland is a game that I picked up on day one only because my favorite artist, Akira Toriyama, was behind it. Being a fan of his other game series, such as Dragon Quest and Blue Dragon, I couldn't bring myself to not buy it. 30 hours later, I've beaten the game and collected my thoughts of Sandland and its world of, well, sand. Welcome to Backlog Worthy, the series where I talk about video games and if they're worth sitting in your backlog for an undetermined amount of time. Let's talk about Sandland. The main gameplay of Sandland is centered around the vehicles you're in, and for me, that was mainly the tank. Your main goal is to uncover the secrets of, well, the secret lake of legend. Since I brought up the tank, let's talk about the combat. There are two ways to go about it, either by fists or by tank. The tanks are easily the most enjoyable way to approach combat. While inside one, you have the choice between machine gun bullets or missiles, but either way will be effective. Hand-to-hand combat is also an option, just not a fun one in my opinion. It feels pretty much like button mashing, and it was to the point where I was mainly only using the vehicles for fights. The sneaking missions were nothing I was exactly too excited to jump into. It's to no fault of the game though. I just hate sneaking missions in general. Thankfully, there's not too many of these types of missions throughout the game, and even though I never really used it, and at one point I even forgot it existed, I liked the water bottle healing mechanic. It was a cool idea to incorporate the main issue of the game into a game mechanic. The world of Sandland takes place in a world suffering from extreme drought, where the water is tightly controlled by a corrupt king. The story follows Beelzebub and his ragtag group as they encounter unlikely allies and enemies, unexpected missions, and more as they uncover secrets about the world's past and the true nature of its rulers. The majority of Sandland is set in a post-apocalyptic desert, where the water is the most valuable resource. The barren landscapes, abandoned ruins, and scattered settlements create a sense of desperation, but Toriyama's signature art style keeps the world visually engaging rather than too bleak. Beyond the plot, Sandland explores themes of greed, environmental destruction, and the power of unlikely friendships. The contrast made between humans and devils challenges your typical hero-villain dynamics, showcasing that morality isn't always black and white. Beelzebub, despite being the prince of demons, becomes a symbol of both hope and rebellion. It reinforces the idea that heroism comes from actions rather than appearances. Beelzebub is the prince of demons in the flesh and the main character of Sandland. He tries to live in relative peace with humans, despite stealing water from them quite a bit. I actually really liked his personality. He tries to be someone who doesn't care, but secretly has a big heart. Thief is another demon in Sandland, and serves as the royal advisor to Prince Beelzebub. I never really cared for his sneaking missions, but I did really enjoy his scaredy cat personality that was paired with the dynamics of the ragtag group. Rao is a lone sheriff that helps seek the demons to find the legendary lake in order to return water to Sandland and end the king's greed. He's a pretty serious character, which is a nice contrast from both Beelzebub and Thief. Anne is a mysterious girl who doesn't seem to be from Sandland. With her expertise in anything mechanical, she became an essential part of the team, alongside Rao, and helps keep the other two in check. I think Sandland does a great job of capturing Toriyama's style. You can just look at the character models and they just feel like something straight out of his works. For the most part, the transition from manga to 3D works well. I haven't read the original Sandland, which is now definitely on my reading list, but from what I've seen, the game nails the aesthetic. The mechs, the tanks, and the enemy designs all have that playful yet detailed look you would expect from Toriyama's work, like it was something out of Dragon Quest or Blue Dragon. That being said, I'm not gonna lie to you, the desert setting does get old after a while. It's not bad, and it makes sense for the story, but after spending hours in a wasteland of sand and rocks, I found myself wishing for a little bit more visual variety. It's not that kind of world that's fun to explore just for the sake of looking around. Musically, Sandland does this job well, but I can't really say there's a particular track that's stuck with me. Everything fits. It sounds good, the battle themes sound energetic, and the atmosphere tracks add to the world, but there wasn't really a moment throughout my playthrough where I thought, wow, I need to hear this again later. That being said, the sound design is solid all around. Combat sounds satisfying, vehicles have weight to them, and the voice acting brings a lot of personality to the characters. It all comes together in a way that helps keep you immersed, even if the soundtrack itself doesn't leave a lasting impression. Now, I will admit, I only bought this game because Akira Toriyama created the art for it, but honestly, I don't regret buying it. Sandland has both good and bad aspects, but one doesn't necessarily outweigh the other. I did enjoy this game enough to drop almost 30 hours into it, and I've contemplated going back to 100% it. At this point, I would say it's a good game just to have the chill in your backlog.